The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. You know, we done a live stream yesterday, Sunday afternoon, with Huffer Billy Paul. He's a Clemsonite, and I appreciate him taking the time to be on the show and whatnot as I get these kinks ironed out for the live streams that we're doing. But we had a topic that come up, and that's the 8-game schedule that's projected by 247 Sports for 2024. As you know, in 2025, they're going to revisit a 9-game schedule and probably end up approving that. But for now, the 8-game schedule that they're projecting for 2024 is one of the topics we touched on. Let's talk about it. Well, here we go again, riding on in. I hear that Bonanza music from TV Land playing in my head right now. That's right. Dun, 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 dun. Here they come, riding on in. It's that outlaw posse that's growing by leaps and bounds. And we got yet another member, our first female member, Alice Stokes. At least I think it's a female. Now, I know there's a singer named Alice Cooper back in the day. But for now, I'm counting her as our first female member of the Outlaw Posse. She's saddled up and ready to ride. And if you want to be a part of the Outlaw Posse, as I said before, it's only $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. It's the little join button. That's the subscribe button. And I've thought of a perk maybe going forward for the Outlaw Posse. Instead of doing just member shout outs for you guys, which I'm going to start pretty soon as we get to about 20 members. Instead of just doing shout-outs, if you want to, hit me up in DMs or PMs on Twitter and Facebook and give me maybe a business you want to shout out, or maybe a person that's in the hospital that loves sports, give them a shout-out. Anything you want to give a shout-out on as an Outlaw Posse member, I'll be able to do that for you, other than just giving you your own shout-out. Now, getting right to it here. Seems like we had an 8-game schedule projection out there by 247 Sports. You know, I talked about this in a live stream with Huffer Billy Paul, but I figured that we all need to sit down here and sort of dissect this a little bit. And I'm going to throw some screenshots up of each team and what they project their schedule being just for 2024. These are not their permanents. It's nothing that they've decided upon as far as permanents and that kind of thing. But here was their projections. And we'll start out with Vanderbilt. It has Vanderbilt going to Georgia, playing Tennessee, South Carolina, then at Florida, at LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Kentucky. Looks like their road games are pretty daunting. They have to travel to Georgia, Florida, and LSU. They're doing Vanderbilt no favors and getting them out of the cellar. That's for damn sure. Then it's Mississippi State, at Alabama, Arkansas, at Ole Miss, at Florida, Auburn, at Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M. Not too bad for Mississippi State. They get to keep that game with Alabama, which I think in the future is going to disappear because they are not going to be one of Alabama's permanents, although I've said ad nauseum that they should be. Not trying to get Alabama an easy out, but if we're going by geographical location rivalries and the fact how many times they've played, Mississippi State probably should have been able to keep that Alabama game. It's a great boon for their local economy in Starkville as well. But going on to Missouri, it says Missouri has Texas A&M, at Ole Miss, Georgia, at South Carolina, Oklahoma, at Texas, Arkansas, and Auburn. Not a very daunting task there. It's about what you would expect from Missouri and whatnot. Then you have Ole Miss, at Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Missouri, at Arkansas, Kentucky, at Tennessee, at LSU, and at Texas. Now, that's pretty daunting there at the end, I think. It's like at LSU and at Texas. And by the way, these games are not in any chronological order as far as dated as to when they'll play those games. This is just a list, just a random list of who they think will be the projected teams in 2024. But Lane Kiffin looks like he's got a daunting task ahead of him in 2024, if he's not somewhere else by then. Remember, Alabama might consider Lane Kiffin if Nick Saban decides to retire. after this season. Kentucky has Georgia at Ole Miss, Florida at Tennessee, Texas A&M, South Carolina, and Auburn, and then at Vanderbilt. Not too bad at all. Their road test ain't as daunting as what I've seen with the prior conference members that we just listed. At Ole Miss, at Tennessee, and at Vanderbilt. Not too bad for Kentucky at all, as they continue to try their climb and try to shed that whole basketball-only school label. As you know, him and Calipari have been having a little back and forth going on. Would not surprise me if Stoops ends up leaving Kentucky for the very same reason that Bear Bryant left Kentucky, and then that is they give too much leeway to the basketball. I have to put Calipari in check just a little bit and try not to get him to insult probably one of the best. Matter of fact, I think he is the best Kentucky football coach of all time as far as wins and losses. Auburn has at Georgia, Texas, at Alabama, Missouri, at Mississippi State, South Carolina, at Kentucky, and LSU. Not too bad. They do have to play their chief rivals on the road in the same year, but that happens every year with Auburn, so nothing really to complain about there. Now, when we had divisions, which we're not going to have anymore, Auburn was begging to go to the East. That way they could, I don't know, maybe they were trying to figure out a way of making Alabama a rotational game, because, you know, Alabama right now is their permanent as Tennessee. And not saying Auburn's chicken shit, but Auburn's chicken shit. Now, Florida has South Carolina, LSU, at Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Mississippi State, at Texas, and at Kentucky. That'll be an interesting game. They got the two UTs on the road. Steve Spurrier back in the day would probably have a field day with that, right? With the whole citrus thing. But, yeah, the two road games against Tennessee and Texas are a little bit daunting. But I think the rest of their schedule and their SEC schedule and whatnot is pretty favorable for Florida going forward. Arkansas has at Mississippi State, LSU, Texas A&M, at Texas, Oklahoma, at Missouri, Ole Miss, and Alabama. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. They do have a one road game against Texas that may be a little bit daunting, but they do get Oklahoma in Fayetteville, so they don't have to do both of those games on the road, which is a huge plus for Arkansas. Texas A&M has at Alabama, Oklahoma, at South Carolina, Texas, at Missouri, at Kentucky, Arkansas, and at Mississippi State. Pretty decent schedule. Looks like they got more road games than most people, though. They got 1, 2, 3, 4. They're projected with 5 SEC road games. I don't know, 247 Sports. That projection right there might be a little bit off. I don't see them making Texas play, or Texas A&M playing 5 SEC road games, but they could. That means they still get 3, so it's almost half and half. So I guess that's not too perplexing. Tennessee is up next. Tennessee has at Georgia, Bama, at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, Florida, at Vanderbilt, which we know that's never really a road game for Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ole Miss. Not too bad for Tennessee either. They do have the couple of daunting road games in Georgia and Oklahoma, so that's pretty tough ask. That's a pretty tough ask for Tennessee as well. LSU has Ole Miss, at Alabama, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, at Florida, Texas, at Arkansas, and at Auburn. Not too bad. They do have to go to Alabama, and they do have to go to Auburn. But they do get Oklahoma at home in LSU. That'll be a hell of a game. When was the last time Oklahoma played LSU in Baton Rouge? I don't know. Have they ever played LSU in a regular season game? I'm not sure. I haven't looked that up. You Oklahoma fans out there, drop it in the comment section. Let me know. Next up is the Georgia Bulldogs, the two-time defending hedge pissers. At South Carolina, Auburn, Florida, at Kentucky, at Missouri, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Alabama. Damn. They're getting their SEC schedules about as easy as their non-conference schedule. That's a pretty easy road to hoe for Georgia. It's not what I'd expect that, but this year, hell, they may be the first team to three-peat. With this kind of schedule, hell, they may even four-peat. Next up, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, at Oklahoma, Mississippi State, at Tennessee, at Georgia, Auburn, at Arkansas. Wow. Now I see why Nick Saban was a little pissed off about getting stuck with Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn, because they're projecting that we are also picking up Georgia as one of the crossover games, or they ain't even be called crossover anymore. It's going to be called rotational games. They're picking up Georgia in the same year that they got LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn's projected as their primary. So that's a pretty hard ask. And Nick Saban's going to be losing his bowels over that if he hadn't already. But, hey, Nick, you just got to deal with it, man, because you're the one, just a couple of years ago, I think about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, you were the one that was pushing for a 9-game conference schedule. And I think he probably thought that maybe Mississippi State would stay on, like a lot of people did. And it sort of caught him off guard. But, hey, I was always a proponent of keeping 8 games, even back when Nick Saban was pushing for 9 games. But if you're going to push for 9 games, Nick, like that old saying, man, be careful what you ask for, dear Nicky boy, because you might just get it. It looks like we got it. So we'll see going forward. I do think that they'll probably revisit that, and they'll probably end up likely adding Mississippi State as Alabama's primary, if I'm guessing. Next up, South Carolina at Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, at Vanderbilt, at Kentucky, Tennessee, at Auburn, and Missouri. Not too hard. That's a pretty favorable schedule for South Carolina that year. So the first year of adding Oklahoma and Texas to the schedule, they don't even play either one of those 2 new teams. And what would have been interesting is if Spencer Rattler was still around for another year, we got to see him, if they put him on there, you would have got to see South Carolina versus Oklahoma. That would have been pretty interesting to see Rattler, especially if he had to go to Norman to play Oklahoma, his former team. Next up, the Texas Longhorns at Texas A&M, Missouri, Arkansas, Ole Miss, at Auburn, Florida, Oklahoma, at LSU. That Texas A&M game has been a subject of a sore spot for both teams. I think it's more or less Chris Del Conte's not really sore about it, but I think he's just having a little fun with the A&M people, poking them and saying, well, I don't know, we may not play y'all on the road. When all reality is probably going to give Texas A&M at least some kind of little concession, because, Texas A&M was not in favor of Texas coming into the conference, nor Oklahoma. So they'll probably get that concession. As it says, I think they actually got Oklahoma and College Station as well, but I have to go back and look at that. Yep. Looks like they get Oklahoma and Texas in College Station. The last one up is the Oklahoma Sooners at Arkansas, at LSU, Texas, at Missouri, Mississippi State, Alabama, Tennessee, and at Texas A&M. Now that's a pretty nice little schedule for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's getting some of their wishes here. They get to play Arkansas, who is a border state. Those 2 teams don't play nearly enough, in my opinion. They get Alabama in Norman. That's another thing. Alabama's not only got to play, and they only play Tennessee, LSU, and Georgia. I didn't realize this, but they got to play Oklahoma too. So no wonder Nick Saban's been losing his bowels here lately. But that looks pretty favorable. It seems like a doable schedule. I mean, their first year in the conference. That's at LSU and at Texas A&M. That can be a little harrowing. And Texas is a neutral site game every year, so it might be a pretty nice little entrance into the SEC for Oklahoma. You guys and gals, tell me in the comment section what you think about all these schedules and what you think maybe was good. Who got the most favorable schedule, and maybe the bad. Who got screwed? Not saying it because I'm an Alabama fan, but it looked like old Nick Saban, he might have a point. There's a little heart down here. If you don't mind, hit that. There's a little thanks button. Also, as I said before, you can subscribe to the Outlaw Posse. The little join button, that's the subscribe button. Only $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.